We'd like to welcome you to yet another Garden America podcast. I'm Brian Main, along with the usual suspects, and I do mean suspects, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast, and we do hope that you're watching us during our regular radio show every Saturday morning, starting at 8:06 Pacific Time, Eastern Time Zone, 11:06, and we've got a new YouTube page we invite you to check out, gardenamerica.com. And, of course, these podcasts, which we delve into usually, one topic and we get into detail. Today we're going to talk about what to do in June, sort of a June punch list as we head into summer. So what does it mean, Tiger? Springtime, we've for the most part, planted everything. It's getting warmer now, but it's no time to sit back and relax.
Well, this is the time, I think, when a lot of the work has to take place because you're getting ready for the summer, which is one of the hardest time of the year for a lot of plants. There's going to be all kinds of things, watering, fertilizing, bugs. They're going to be plaguing your plants over the next few months. And now is the time of year when you have to kind of get ahead of it. So that way you're not responding to all these problems. You're actually being proactive in the landscape.
I was going to say, proactive is the key. Don't wait for a problem. Get ahead of the problem.
Yeah.
You hear the phrase June is busting out all over.
Right.
Yeah. One of the main reasons for that is day length.
Mm-hmm.
We are now in the longest days of the year. And sunlight is what promotes plant growth. So if you've got sun and you've got water and you have temperatures that are not either too hot or too cold, plants just grow like crazy. And then, like you said, Tiger, along with a lot of plant growth comes a lot of insect problems, disease problems, depending on what particular location that you're in.
So remember, the more successful you are, the bigger and more enticing your buffet for the insects.
yeah, it's true, right?
Really, I mean, if you've got a garden that looks great, get in there and check and see what's happening.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that everybody needs to start with is if you're not a mulcher, this is the time of year when it's critical that you are. Mulching your landscape does a ton of things that, I would say for the return on your investment, for what mulch costs and the labor it takes to do it and what it returns to you is exponentially better than most anything else, because when you put down mulch, you're keeping water in the ground. So whenever you water, it's staying in the ground. It's not evaporating as quickly. You're keeping weeds controlled, which means that you can focus on other things that we're talking about, because the control of weeds can take up a lot of time in your landscape. And so therefore, if you don't have to be weeding all the time, you can be tending to roses, tending to your vegetables, doing other things that are going to be more prolific for you. And then also down the road, mulching can be a fertilizer. You're adding organic material to the soil, which in turn is going to help the soil keep its own life in the way of like nice beneficial microbes in the soil. It'll add nitrogen depending on the mulch that you get. And again, it creates that nice loamy soil that we all strive for, especially if you're in an environment like Southern California where it's a lot of clay, sand, rock. By adding mulch, you're going to create this nice 6 to 10 inches of soil over years that you can plant in without using a jackhammer.
Do we not mulch as much in California as people do in other states?
I don't think we do.
John,
I think it's a critical thing people do elsewhere, but here it's just not important to us, I feel.
Because we're not Michigan, John, did you?
We're not responsible, that's why. We were more environmentally responsible. Like Tiger said, we would use more mulch. I think it's almost impossible to use too much.
Yeah.
And I think it probably does. You listed a bunch of things that it does, how good it is. The list goes on and on and on. I mean, so many things that it does we don't even realize.
And then, like I said before, the cost versus the reward. I mean, some people will go and buy the really inexpensive bags of bark from a box store.
Right.
It's decorative. It does a bit of those things that I just listed off. It's not going to do them all, but it's something, right? And you can buy a bag for like $2.50 kind of a thing, right?
5 for $10.
Yeah, right.
I went through a bark stage one time.
No, and that's fine. That's one thing. But at the same time, even if you were to take the extreme, even if you were to go to some kind of like a product like a Forest Fines or shredded redwood, like the Gorilla Hair mulch, that's kind of a good hardy mulch, you can go and get a yard for $80, a yard of mulch, so that's
I've never seen Gorilla Hair for sale anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, where do you get it?
Southwoods Boulder and Stone, they have it bulk.
And you buy it by the yard.
Yeah, you can buy it by the yard bulk wise.
What price are you looking at roughly?
I think it's $85 a yard.
Huh.
Which isn't bad because 1 yard of that material can cover 100 square feet or so. So it's a good space. But I really like that mulch particularly. It looks nice, it breaks down quickly, and it creates a mat that I feel keeps out the weeds a little bit better than some of the other products out there. So again, there's a lot of things. I mean, some people just buy bags of compost and put it down as mulch, which is also kind of nice.
Yeah, anything organic that you add is a help.
Yeah.
There's probably better ways to do some things, but if it's organic and you put it down, eventually it's going to help. I think the strangest mulch I've ever seen, I mean, it's not we're not doing this podcast on mulches, but it just came to my mind was when we were in Oregon, and there for mulch, they use filbert shells.
What do they use?
Filbert shells.
What's
I don't know what filbert shells are.
Sounds like
No idea.
You don't know what nuts filberts are?
No.
What's
this
the
is
other
going to be a
word?
great lesson.
Hazelnuts?
Teach us.
Hazel.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Hazelnuts?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they use the shells.
The shells of it.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah,
'Cause
whatever's
they
in
grow-
your area.
They grow a lot of them up there. Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you're down south, a lot of pine
Mhm.
straw mulch,
Yeah.
things like that.
Now we're
Yeah.
talking about June. We're talking
Yep.
about the time of the year, what you should be doing. I would imagine a lot of people think I'm done planting. There's no more planting to be done. A little late if you want that big pumpkin though,
Right.
for October.
But there's a lot
But
of
you can
pumpkins
still
and
do it.
squash and things like
Yeah,
that.
anything
that are
in the squash family could go in now.
right now.
You probably could still do beans, but
Mm-hmm.
it's too late for cool weather crops. You don't do peas or any of the broccoli,
Mhm.
cabbage, anything in that family.
And then your fall flowers. You had mentioned echinacea earlier
Right.
in the show. There are a lot of fall flowers. Black-eyed Susan.
Zinnias love the heat, so you can put in zinnias right now from
Yeah.
seed and still get a lot of production.
And the thing that people have to remember is that you're planning about a 4 to possibly on the long end 8-week period of time that you've invested in these plants. So when you're thinking about when they'll actually start growing, you're in your July, August, going into September kind of a thing, because you're planning so far ahead. People always are more instant gratification nowadays
Yeah.
that they don't think about planting it until it's the time that it's, I mean,
In bloom, right?
What was it that you told me was it back east or somewhere where you go into a garden center and you do not ever see a plant with a flower on it?
Well, that was years and years ago. But yeah, if you would buy perennials,
You never
they
bought
were
it
in
with a
3.5-inch pots. They never had a bloom, but
'Cause
they
it's
always
late.
had a color tag,
Yeah.
and you could tell what they were.
Yeah, because it's late. When
Yeah.
you're buying plants in bloom,
Yes.
you're late. You're only going to get to
Yeah.
really use them for weeks.
And I think I might have told you when I was in New Zealand also.
Yeah, that's where I think it was.
Okay, bedding
Yeah.
plants.
Yes.
None of their bedding. As soon as their bedding plants started to flower, they threw them out.
Yeah,
because they
that's what
thought
you
they
had
were
said.
overgrown.
That's right. Yeah. So those things are the time of year for planting. Another checklist item, fertilizing. It's still a great time of year to start using your organic time-release fertilizer, Milorganite, Natural Guard.
Oh, for lawns especially,
yeah.
because if you're closer to the coast where it's cooler, you don't have to worry as much. But as you get inland where it's going to get hot,
Mhm.
if you use something like Milorganite, you don't have to worry about burning, and you're still going to get the benefits of the fertilizer. You also need more water on your lawn during the summer, right?
Yeah, you need more
Yeah.
water. And one of the ways to combat that is allow your lawn to grow a little longer. When you allow those blades to grow a little longer, it shades the soil underneath, kind of like a mulch would do. But it also, when you allow the plant to grow taller, the roots grow deeper. And so therefore they
Better
tap
established grass.
into better amounts of water. If
Okay.
you water regularly, a lot of people don't deep water a lawn because they feel like, oh, it's just the top 4 to 5 inches that really need to be watered. But I had an interview years ago with the person who maintained the field at Petco Park. And they really deep water that lawn because they want their root systems to go down 12 to 14 inches for a
Wow.
lawn. And, then you don't have to water it as much and it recovers better. It, grows, it gets more well established. Maybe you don't have to water as often, kind of a thing. So you can get roots in a lawn to grow deep, but you have to deep water it because you have to pull the roots downwards to make that happen.
And that is such an art. The grounds crews that take care of ballparks.
Oh, yeah.
You look at the way some of this grass grows and how they can get it to grow in different directions and so on and so forth. And I mean, they know what they're doing.
Have you ever had like the ability to see the close up view of an edge, like where the dirt meets the turf on a ball field? It's like carpet. It's perfectly manicured. It's
Right.
amazing
Right.
what they can do on that. So yeah. So lawns,
So if you're
fertilizing,
gonna-
let it grow longer.
If you're going to give it water so that the roots will grow deeper, how much, how often? If you're doing it, setting a timer. What do
So
you say?
I would say even in the hottest areas, no matter where you're at, you're probably looking at about, as long as you don't have runoff, so it's a flat lawn that's not sloped, you're probably looking at about 3 days a week and running it for 10 to 11 minutes, because that's really soak the area well. And then the 3 days a week will allow it to dry out. You don't want to water more days, because what will happen is you'll get disease in lawn. You'll get the brown with the rings. You'll get rust and different things that you do not want to keep it too humid, because then you'll get disease in lawn.
And I imagine it depends on what type of soil you have too.
Yeah.
Because at my house, I do 3 minutes every other day,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds like something you wouldn't really want to do, but it's always wet.
Yeah.
You know, if I water more than that, it becomes soggy.
Okay.
And you get hot in your area.
Yeah,
Fallbrook
and I
gets very
get
hot.
really hot.
Yeah.
During the winter, I turn it off completely, but during the summer, 3 minutes every other day is
And-
really all I need.
And you have a fescue lawn, or which kind of lawn do you have?
Fescue.
Fescue lawn. Yeah, because
Well-
that also depends, because if you have like a Bermuda lawn or a fescue lawn or a St. Augustine lawn,
It's all
you
going to be
know,
different.
Yeah, they're
I
going to be different.
should modify that and say I have California fescue, which means it's a mixture of fescue and Bermuda.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone has just
Straight
a fescue
fescue
long
lawn.
for long.
Not
right?
for
No,
long.
you can plan it
Yeah.
that way, but it'll change.
Yeah, eventually you get Bermuda in there, and it's just a little bit, and you go, oh, I'll just leave.
It's green in that area. If I pulled it out, it'd all be a hole
Right.
in brown.
Right.
Okay, so month of June, moving ahead into summertime. Talked
Well,
about mulching and
bugs.
oh boy, here we go.
Bugs are big right now, right?
Yeah.
The temperatures are up. They've all hatched. They're plaguing our plants. You got fruit. You got flowers. You have everything that the bug needs at this time of year. So you've got caterpillars and worms. You've got the sucking insects, the scale, the aphids, the mealybug. And these are all out there. So this is the time of year when you need to get in your yard. You need to monitor these things. If you're using mild products like neem oil, insecticidal soap, or just hosing things off, obviously that's got to be done regularly. If you're treating with a systemic, maybe you're using the Fertilome tree and shrub, or some systemic product that's going to go into the plant. This is the time of year you want to put it on, so it's there for the whole season.
Right.
And it takes a while for that stuff to be effective. It takes, I think, about a week or two to really get up into the plant, depending on the size of the plant, to push out those bugs. So you got to make sure you're ahead of it in that way. These bugs don't always kill the plants, but they will hinder them from growing well later on. So, be cautious of that.
I always warn to be careful on applying pesticides and know what your objective is,
Yeah.
because pesticides not only kill pests, but they
Mhm.
kill beneficial insects,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you're going to put down. So I think that anything that has spinosad or spinosad, however you want to pronounce it, and it's probably one of the best all-purpose insecticides to use. But again, if you spray it on bees, it'll kill bees.
Right.
So always use it in the evening after the bees have gone back to their hive. Once it's dry, it won't hurt bees at all. But I like using systemics sometimes, because you're not spraying that into the environment. It's just going into the ground.
Right.
It's going to go into that one particular plant and take care of the insects on that plant. And spraying with spinosad, you're not going to kill beneficial insects.
Well, and then, Natural Guard put out the spinosad soap, which
Mhm.
is also the combination of just the insecticidal soap.
And the reason they do that's for aphids.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
like
because
sucking insects,
yes.
because spinosad won't work on a lot of
it
those.
won't work on aphids.
Yeah. So it's a good all-purpose one that's really easy to use. So,
Mhm.
I like that one as well. So yeah, I mean, bugs this time of year, big problems out there. Staying ahead of them though is what, and especially when you have fruit crops, it's that's why you grow a fruit crop, is to use it, to harvest it. And if you don't stay ahead of the bugs, at the end of the day, you won't be able to use any
Right.
of your fruit. You won't be able to use any of your vegetables if they're got worms in them, or they're constantly being, eaten off by other things. Then you're not going to want to use it. Or they get mildew or stuff growing on them that doesn't make it as appetizing to be able to harvest and use.
This is the time of year where you can actually, in Southern California, start harvesting some fruit.
Mm-hmm.
If you've planted low chill peaches, a lot of those you can start harvesting as early as May. Citrus, I don't know. Um,
Obviously, lemons are
lemons,
year
yeah, year
round.
round.
Yeah, all the time.
Some of the other ones are seasonal. That's still early for
Yeah.
them, but some of them, will be out there for
Yeah.
sure. And I still have fruit left over from last season. There's still oranges sitting on my orange tree.
Yeah,
So
there's only so many you can use.
I know, right? You can always tell. You talked about lemons all year long.
Yeah.
How many places have you been, especially in this building? You come to work in the kitchen. There's 5 dozen lemons. People here, take one, please. I can't eat them fast enough. Can't get rid of them.
yeah.
June is, to me, always signals the time when tropicals just start growing like crazy.
Oh yeah.
So if you're going to plant something in June, tropicals would be the things to look at, and the time when tropicals in your landscape are going to start growing. Brian, during the show, you were mentioning about how your hibiscus is coming into bloom.
And it's June.
Yeah, and you will, from June through fall, should have one bloom after
I'm
another.
just so excited because there's one right after another.
Yeah.
The one that we've got on the on our page that bloomed. And by the way, we want to a little disclaimer. You thought it was Black Beauty? What'd you
Oh, no,
call
I
it?
thought it was Red Giant, and
Red Giant.
it turned out that it was Bright
Horizon.
Horizon.
Something Horizon. But the
Bright
fact
Horizon, I
is
think.
this big bloom now. It's starting to kind of fold back in, and right behind it is another one
Yeah.
ready to go.
Well, in the new exotic hibiscus, the new hybrids, a lot of them change color depending on the amount of sunlight and heat that they get.
And I have one of those, right?
You've got, so
Yeah.
yours will start showing. I think you'll be surprised. It's almost like getting a new plant
You don't know what it's
every
going to
other
look like.
month. Tropical foliage plants, philodendrons, palms usually are doing really well
Right.
this time of year.
I will say though, as a disclaimer for people out there, for June, this is not the time of year that you want to plant that row of hedges or that tree always. I mean, you're going right into the summertime. Sometimes it's a big challenge for some of those landscaping decisions you're making, because this is the time of year people go, oh, I wish I had that shade tree. So they think it's a good idea to go out and go to the garden center, go buy a shade tree and plant it. Well, you've got July and August right around the corner. The temperatures are going to be hot. Water is going to be at a minimum. It's going to put a lot of stress on that planting. There's things you can do to eliminate that stress. I mean, the HB 101, the watering, the fertilizing, you can do it, but it is a challenge for some areas and for some people. So,
Yeah, usually fall is a better time to put that kind of
exactly.
stuff in. Think of shrubs and trees as furniture in your home. That time to buy a sofa isn't the day you're having company.
Yeah, true. That's good. Yeah.
So the time to put in trees and shrubs really is in the fall, so they become established, and come spring are ready to take off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But like Tiger says, you can do it, but
Takes a little more work.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered
think-
quite a bit
Yeah.
in June as far as things that to be aware of and what you should and shouldn't be doing. Anything else you can think of, Tiger? John? For people who are listening and watching right now?
No, I think
Stay on
depending
top of things.
on what part of the country you're in, in Southern California and probably most of California, we're just worried about providing enough water to keep plants alive through the hot part of the
Right.
season.
Right.
Or as we said in the case of tropicals, they're growing now, so giving them the extra water that they do need this time of year.
Okay. Well, very good. Thanks, guys. And thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. Things to do, your little punch list for June heading into summer. It's going to be very hot. Watch for the bugs. Your watering should be changing depending upon what you're watering and where you are. And we'll be back with another podcast next week or so. We thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, have yourself a great day. Thank you for tuning in to Garden America and the Garden America podcast. For the entire crew, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox, I'm Brian Main. We'll see you next time on either another show or podcast. Till then, take care.